You good? Double spinning! Alright, so before we can get too far into things, I should mention that this isn't going to be a full essay on Xenoblade 2. That would be a significantly longer video, and we'd like to go into it having already tackled Xenoblade 1. This video is a spiritual successor to our previous video, and is purely going to be focusing on Pyra and Mythra, their relationship to each other, and the scope of their plurality as we interpret it. To that end, we need to talk about many segments of Xenoblade 2, so spoilers for Chapter 6 of Xenoblade 2, and all of Torna the Golden Country. So, blades. What are they exactly? Well, in their simplest form, they are core crystals. When someone resonates with a core crystal, that crystal gives form and being to a newly born blade. This blade, now tied to their driver, will stay alive until their driver dies, at which point they return to their core crystal. Interestingly, before even getting into Pyra and Mythra, we can see an aspect of blades as a whole that functions very similarly to a headmate. More often than not, they have the mental age close to pre-existing individuals of the system. For example, we both consider ourselves the current age of our body, despite likely not both existing since birth. I bring this up now because this concept of mental age is very important when discussing blades as a whole. For example, take Electra, one of the rare blades you can acquire through random core crystal resonating.
I was just trying to help. I never meant to hurt him.
It's okay, Electra. It was just an accident, right?
Electra has had previous drivers and lived an undetermined number of years, but she still has the mental age of around 8 to 10 years old. Similar to headmates, blade mental ages aren't really an exact number. Since many blades have existed over several lifetimes as they bond with different drivers, giving them specific mental ages isn't really a helpful concept. When I say Electra has the mental age of 8 to 10, I'm getting at the fact that her personality and attitude is that of a child in upper elementary school. It may be more helpful, in fact, to categorize mental ages by names rather than numbers, such as young child, teenager, young adult, middle-aged, boomer. This, of course, is not the only similarity between blades and headmates, but in order to clarify further, we're gonna have to take a dive into the meat of Xenoblade 2's story. So, it's time to focus on the legendary Aegises, starting in chronological order of their existence. Which means... The awakening of Mythra is a result of Amalthus, driver of the Aegis Malos, looking for a suitable driver to take Malos down. He entrusts the core to Adam, a prince of Torna, who begins to view Mythra as a sort of daughter figure. Adam uses several moments to give Mythra life lessons, and call her out on her bullshit.
How dare he speak to me like that? He thinks he knows me.
Course is the word.
Yeah, he is.
I meant you.
Adam's parental tendencies likely stem from taking care of Milton, a Gormadi refugee who starts to view Mythra as an incredibly annoying older sister.
Nobody's, like, making you come along, you know.
On their journey, they team up with Laura and Jin, an experienced blade driver pair, as well as Emperor Hugo of Morardain alongside his royal blades. Conversations between Mythra and the party reveal that Milton is far from the only one to find her a bit insufferable. She's extremely full of herself, dismissive of friendships, and prone to outbursts of varying levels of destruction.
A simpleton?
Your attacks scream it. Clumsy, heavy, no refinement.
I was gonna go easy on you, but now you have pissed me off!
Mythra, stop! We've got children here!
Really makes you wonder why they didn't rename this game to Torna the Golden Cunt. A key theme throughout Torna is the growing relationships between blades and humans, treating blades less like weapons and more like companions, a sentiment not all blades even seem to agree on, Mythra included. As the adventure continues, however, Mythra opens up significantly more, particularly towards Adam as a mentor figure, and Jin as a fellow blade. Far more than them, however, she takes a strong liking to Milton as someone she wishes to protect.
Come on, don't you get it? You're not hearing them. Okay? You'd be no help on the battlefield. In fact, protecting you from Malos would take all my energy. But hey, I mean, if you stay here and keep Mikhail out of trouble, we'll be able to fight the way we should. That's what they're saying.
After convincing the children to stay behind, the party heads towards Malos for the final confrontation. This climactic conclusion begins with the expected energy of the party. Everyone is justifiably angry at Malos, who appears to be treating the world around him as a game filled with people who long for death. As the battle progresses, Malos gradually tries to anger Mythra, to bring out the absolute limits of her power, to have a true final showdown. And what makes Mythra finally crack? Is the apparent death of someone she deeply cares for. Someone she had just recently began to feel a need to protect.
This can't be real. Milton!
In an instant, that ability to protect is ripped away from her, and she goes completely berserk. I feel that her 1,000-yard stare tells more than words or screams could ever communicate. She has lost all will to hold back for any reason. Malos has achieved his goal. As they fight, the entirety of Torna is destroyed, and every last bit of land falls apart or descends into the clouds with the greater landmass. Only those who manage to evacuate in time are alive, and even then, not all were quite so lucky. The moment Mythra realizes the state of Milton and Mick's reluctance to allow her near him, I can only imagine the intense pain and guilt she fears. The crushing weight of realizing your actions lead to the death of someone you care so deeply for is an astounding weight to carry, especially when that person's emotional development is as lacking as Mythra's. That kind of pain is perhaps too much for a single person to bear, and as she screams in agony from this revelation, that crushing pain does begin to lift off of her, for someone else to carry. The emergence of Pyra, similar to many plural systems, is caused due to an intensive traumatic experience. Although Mythra has the mental age of a teenager, she has only existed as Mythra for a short period of time. We see throughout Torna Mythra's developing sense of morals, forms of relationships, and sense of self, none of which has fully developed before she inadvertently caused the death of someone she had just begun to love. This level of stress is simply too strong for a developing mind, and, as a result, a new person is formed to shoulder the burden one person cannot contain. This is the unfortunate birth of Pyra. Following the events of Torna, Adam asks Pyra to seal herself away to prevent the catastrophe of the Aegis War from happening again. 500 years later, a young salvager named Rex is hired by a partially healed Malos.
So, there's something that we want to haul up. There were some current shifts. It showed up in an uncharted area. But it's a long way down.
Nice. I like a good challenge.
Completely ignorant to the events surrounding him, Rex helps out with the resurfacing of a sunken ship that contains the sealed Aegis. On board the ship, Rex unknowingly triggers the awakening of Pyra, and is subsequently killed to prevent any further involvement between Pyra and himself.
But why?
Don't take it personally. It's an act of mercy.
Imagine being alive, am I right?
Rex awakens in a green field, noticing Pyra standing by a tree overlooking a village. After their introductions, Pyra informs Rex about his death and offers to share her life with him in exchange for taking her to Elysium. This exchange aligns perfectly with Rex, who had already planned on journeying to Elysium. And after a brief slight innuendo, Rex takes on this connection to Pyra and revives with perhaps the worst scream in any JRPG. After a short battle with Malos, Rex and Pyra are rescued and crash into the Titan of Gorma. There, they become allies with Nia and Dromark, who were previous allies of Malos. Unfortunately for them, the association with Malos leads to their capture following the party's arrival in Torragoth. Rex and Pyra narrowly avoid capture thanks to the help of a Nappan named Tora, who quickly brings them into his home. And while in Tora's home, Pyra offers to cook for the party using the ingredients available. And the meal which follows gives our first bit of insight into who Pyra really is. Compared to Mythra, Pyra is significantly more reserved and thoughtful. She doesn't rush into anything. Rather, she prefers to hang back and avoid confrontation if at all possible. And while Mythra has no trouble speaking her mind, Pyra prefers to keep her feelings hidden.
I'm sorry. I'm sure I'll be able to tell you about it soon enough.
Don't worry about it.
Of course, to Rex, Tora, and the later rescued Nia, her differences aren't apparent. It isn't until the party travels to the Orion Titan that we finally get to see Mythra's reappearance and her direct side-by-side comparison with Pyra.
Whoa, get lost, Mythra!
Mythra? Pyra! You're...
I am not Pyra.
Huh?
I am Mythra. Pyra, she's a different self that I constructed.
One of the easiest things to note right off the bat is that Mythra, in both gameplay and story, is significantly more powerful than Pyra. And in many ways, this makes perfect sense. Mythra is terrified of her power. It was the very reason for her own trauma. By virtue of Pyra being weaker, she is less capable of bringing about such massive destruction and further trauma for her or anyone else. Taking this into consideration, Mythra's rant towards Rex forcing her to come out in a difficult battle makes total sense.
Why?
Huh?
Why did you wake me up?
Huh? What?
I didn't want to wake up. I didn't want to come back. I left everything to her so I'd never have to use that power again. But then you woke me up.
Woke you up?
If you hadn't been so useless, none of this would have happened. I wouldn't have had to use this power. At any rate, if you've got questions, you can ask her. I'm out of here. Bye. That's not fair. Everyone, I'm very sorry about all that.
Pyra, left to give context for the prior events, begins to go into detail about who Malos is, the Aegis War of the past, stealing herself away, and her relationship with Mythra. She talks about how her and Mythra spent most of their 500 years sealed away, talking to each other in the Dream of Elysium where Rex and Pyra first met. This location, known by the game's files as simply Dream Elysium, is almost certainly Pyra and Mythra's headspace. Headspaces are also known by other names, such as Inner Worlds or Wonderlands, but they generally consist of a space inside the mind where headmates interact with each other. The headspace can greatly vary by size and environment, and the locations within it often draw from important locations or types of environments from the system's memories. Ultimately, however, a headspace allows headmates within a system to fully interact and develop a relationship with each other. Headspaces can also allow a headmate to observe the outside world without actively participating in it. For instance, Mythra remains hidden from the party at large until they reach Morardane's hot springs. Nia initially welcomes Pyra to the springs, but is surprised to find Mythra instead.
When I told her there was a hot spring here, Mythra was dead set on trying it out. So, here I am.
This is perhaps the clearest example of Pyra and Mythra's plurality yet. I can't say that headmates switching frequently for conversation with a third party is super common, but it's definitely an effective way to help people understand how a system's dynamic works. The interaction between Nia and them even prompts Nia to ask about their switching.
Can you just switch whenever? With Pyra? Of course. Our memories are shared, so it doesn't matter that much who takes control.
Sounds pretty handy.
Mythra, having moved on from Rex waking her up in Araya, offers to stick around and helps the party get used to her power. Pyra is inaccessible during this point in the story, so the player is forced to truly understand how Mythra's power compares to Pyra outside of a scripted boss fight. Her strength is by no means overpowered, but it's a night and day difference compared to Pyra, even beyond damage numbers. The player may start to think, wait, if Mythra is as good as she is, what exactly is the point of Pyra? Well, first of all, that's harsh as fuck. But secondly, the story actually does provide Pyra with a purpose. It isn't despite her lack of power, but because of it. During the fight with Morag in this setting, Mythra and Rex decide that Morag isn't worth dealing massive damage to, and choose instead to call on Pyra to merely push her back. This ability to switch who is in control depending on the situation is, in our opinion, the most fascinating part of being part of a system. Even disregarding the near-infinite story potential using this concept, day-to-day living still provides an exceptional amount of versatility. Is the person piloting struggling with a panic attack and unable to reach a calm location? A headmate can switch in and take over to return the body to a calm state. Does the person piloting have a lack of confidence in their ability to converse with others? A headmate with better social skills can jump in for them. We could go on and on about the specific moments of plurality between Pyra and Mythra, as well as our own plural experiences, but ultimately our goal for this video goes beyond those topics. We want to help people understand that plurality is everywhere, in all kinds of media. Without an understanding of what plurality entails, these instances can be super easy to miss and gloss over without a second thought. All throughout anime, cartoons, movies, games, books, and any media you can think of, you're bound to find instances of plurality that may not even be intentional. So, as you carry on through your adventures through media and creative endeavors, keep the plural perspective in mind, not only to prevent bad representation, but also to unlock further possibilities of gameplay and story. And also because nobody should be as dumb as Rex.
Say, chum, which one do you fancy? Pyra or Mythra?
Zeke. You can't just ask someone... Anyway, they're the same person. I've never really thought of them separately.
Hey, it's Evan. Thanks for watching this video. This one was a lot of firsts for us creatively, so some critique in the comments would be very much appreciated. We've also actually worked out a schedule finally to get editing done consistently. So maybe if you do a funky little subscribe, we may actually get a video out before 2024. Something to look forward to, I suppose.